Things I've been working on is a great project with Human Studio Architecture and Urban Design in Vancouver. They received a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson's Foundation and Affordable Housing Association in British Columbia to build out a three-dimensional agent-based simulation of sociability in buildings in the design phase. And the intent of that is to reduce social isolation, to reduce shut-in factors, and increase the mental health and hence physical health and sociability of buildings. Now, this is a really interesting project. We went through a lot of iterations, but we're now in beta, and this is the beta software as a service solution. The software as a service solution allows you to mark up models in Revit or SketchUp or your other architectural tools with families and tags provided by Human Studio in their circle.so site, and then export an FBX file, upload it to the SaaS site, and have a simulation run for many days, from 1 day to 365 days, with agents following calendars to go to work, go to school, get mail, take out garbage, walk their dogs, things like that, and then see how they interact in this environment from scratch. Now, this is Pruitt-Igoe, a famous sociability disaster in St. Louis. And it's interesting to see what this does. We've imported the model, as you can see. This is a GLTF export that runs in a browser, so it's very lightweight, just uses the tools you already have, Revit or SketchUp, as I said, and then we can turn on layers. So these are all the suites in the buildings. This is where all the people live, and this is private space. Then we have the circulation space, where people actually walk in the buildings and where they travel. You can see the staircases are circulation space. There is no semi-private space. There are no balconies or patios in Pruitt-Igoe. There is no outdoor space associated with the individual units that is potentially sociable. Pause space is a specific term that's Human Studio has pulled together from their sociability fluid, their space syntax and their sociability syntax, and that's areas off the beaten paths, off the circulation space, but nearby. The idea being that in that kind of 1.1 meter pathway that people walk down corridors, if the corridor is 2.5 meters wide, there's some space on the other side where people could step out of the beaten path and find a place to talk, or in a lobby or in a courtyard. There's places where people don't walk but are near where they walk. So if two people run into each other, they can step off the beaten path and have a conversation. Now, as we look at that, we can see a whole bunch of different things. For example, here's traffic density. Here's where all the traffic actually exists. These are little bar charts in space, and you can see that as we look at a staircase, the bar chart, the number of journeys that take that trip, gets smaller and smaller as it goes up through the building. And you can see where people actually travel and how many times they travel in those spaces. You can see where people don't travel. So it gives you a sense of, in your building that you're designing, where people are actually moving. And you can see that there's 3 different chunks of space where people are actually moving. Now we can actually turn on encounters lasers, and encounters are where people see each other. It's 23 meters left to right, horizontally, and 5.4 meters up or down. And that gives us a sense that people could, if there were wells in the building or courtyards or elevated corridors with open sides, they could see each other across the courtyard or not. But in the case of Pruitt-Igoe, it's all horizontal encounters. We've also done some simulation of greetings. Now, greetings explicitly say where people actually, according to the rules we've established, and this is exploratory sociability space, where they actually say hi, to one another or acknowledge one another. We have an algorithm for familiarity, how people grow to know one another by bumping into each other frequently, and this increases the likelihood that they will say hi. We're adding conversations over the next few weeks. Now this also, we have flags for both of those as well, so you can see them in a different mode. You can see where people were when they said hi. Now, we've got some metrics here. What we've said is that we're looking at encounters and greetings. We're adding conversations, as I said. But encounters, one of the core metrics we've decided on is encounters per agent per day. Now you can see we have almost 500 agents in Pruitt-Ego in the populated building, which is more than they actually had at peak population in that building, because they only got up to about 50% occupancy. But you can see right there that they only saw each other about once every 2 days. The average person saw somebody else, according to the simulation. It's not perfect. And then greetings, we actually see for this simulation. The simulation ran for 14 days. We only saw about 1 in 15 times, 1 in 15 days that somebody said hello to each other. It's not a very sociable building. You can see we have some metrics over here about children, seniors, externally employed adults, stay-at-home adults. We have some general stuff that we've done there. And we have the number of suites, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and we haven't figured out how we can identify staircases and can't identify staircases, which is a really interesting situation. But we know that there's 3 elevator banks, which does map onto the 3 different areas of circulation. We also have destinations, garbage rooms, laundry rooms, mail rooms. And you can see there's a lot of laundry rooms and a lot of garbage rooms. So we have a mechanism for which they do that. And once again, you can see 3 mail rooms. It's 3 separate buildings that happen to be put together. And there's some error warnings, some places where we can't get to each other. Now, we also have some Vega graphs using the Vega graph approaches, which enables us to assert the total number of people moving in a building on a given day, and then out of that, how many of them actually encountered one another. So you can see that's the social potential. Similarly, as we go through this, we'll just load this. You can see who encounters one another. So you can see if we move to one of these agent groupings, these are all the different units and the groupings of agents within a unit, who they actually run into. So you can start trying to find your way through that. And finally, there's the encounter density, which is the social space map. Basically, there's a lot of circulation space. Nothing much happens in the pause space, and there is no semi-private space. We're adding a couple more graphs in the next couple of weeks to this, but it's interesting. And so that's the solution. It enables you to assess the navigability of your models, and then run simulations with pre-populated agents. You just have to identify the units and a couple of other things. And then it will give you a sense of, especially for comparative designs for the same project, for the same client brief, which one is going to have people meet one another more often. It really is intended for A/B testing for sociability during the design phase. Human Studio is looking for beta testers. Bruce has done TEDx talks. Bruce Hayden has done TEDx talks, and he's written a book, Urban Magnets, which I strongly recommend you read. Fascinating. Did a podcast with Bruce year and a half ago, which is great. And happily, send me a question. I'll provide a link for it. But this is really it's been really a fascinating project. We've done a lot of work. We've gone through Unity and the desktop versions, and now we're at the SaaS version. Now, last thing to say, there's an entire community being built, loading up here. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff in circle.so for fluid sociability. And you can see there's people, there's Bruce, but there's an introductory stuff. There's the social syntax guidance. There's the research we use to create this, the paper that was presented at CIMAUD, discussions forum, tutorials, and the fluid families for download, all those different types of things to help you get up, and a frequently asked questions piece. So this will give you do these things. I would really invite you to join the beta and to have fun playing with this new tool. As I say, it's beta, it's free. When it goes live in production at the end of the month, it will have a free version, which will enable limited simulations, limited duration and limited size. But right now, fill your boots. You've got a big project and you just want to see what happens, sign up. Once again, feel free to reach out if you have questions.